Thanks for joining our webinar today on harnessing Microsoft Teams data for compliance. My name is Grant Sturdivant, and with me today are Kevin Lemire and Melinda Watts. I work in the marketing team here, and my role today will be sort of covering the background and rapid rise in growth of Microsoft Teams and what that means for compliance. Kevin is a product expert at ZL. He'll be helping us navigate some of the more technical elements of our talk today. Lastly, Melinda Watts is a Senior Vice President at ZL. She'll be helping us frame the challenge of managing Microsoft Teams data for compliance, specifically for financial institutions. I'd like to get started today by asking you to answer a quick poll. I'm interested what your main concern is with Microsoft Teams. A, SEC compliance, B, privacy, C, records, or lastly, D, e-discovery. And for this, if you could please just put your answer in the chat. All of those chats will be private, so other attendees won't be able to view them. Additionally, if you have any questions, you could put that in the chat as well, and a ZL team member will get a response to you. I'll take a few seconds to let everyone answer. Okay, so as you all are probably aware, the attention and adoption of Microsoft Teams has absolutely gone through the roof over the last year. With an additional 102 million daily active users, Teams is far and away the most popular business collaboration tool. And this growth has been highly correlated to the shift of remote work. And what started as a strategy to flatten the curve, working from home is becoming the new normal. And it's not going away, at least not completely. So what's setting the stage for Teams adoption? Well, first, 77% of remote employees say they're more productive and prefer working from home. On the other side, employers like Zuckerberg says 50% of the Facebook workforce will be remote in the next 5 to 10 years. Underlying all of that, Stanford has published research finding remote workers accounted for more than 67% of US economic activity throughout the pandemic. But what's facilitating the remote economy? What's the backbone of working from home? And that's the digital collaboration tool. Forrester published a really unique study finding some interesting statistics, a few to name, that 1 to 8 hours of time saved per user per week, an 832% return on investment over time. But what's most interesting to me is this idea, this sentiment that 80% agree the accessibility features in Teams made the organization more productive. That's really important. And what that really boils down to is employees having the ability to create, share, and review data all in one place. The numbers speak for themselves. It's an incredibly powerful tool, but tying back to the massive rise in adoption and the incredible amount of data that's being shared all in one place is a huge compliance risk. We've seen this problem before with a platform where employees can share large quantities of unstructured data back and forth. That's email. For the last 20 years, companies have spent a lot of time and money trying to solve the challenge of managing email messages for compliance. If you need to search across millions or billions for e-discovery or identify PII or even apply retention policies across all of them. Teams data falls under all of those same regulations, and it's a big challenge that a lot of companies may not be aware of, whereas, we've spent 20 years managing email and are just now starting to get good at it. So you've got SEC and FINRA that require financial institutions to preserve records and have the ability to produce them for compliance review. On the privacy side, You've got CCPA and GDPR that require companies have the ability to identify and manage personal data, all of which is being created and shared on Teams. So if we don't have governance capabilities surrounding collaboration tools like Microsoft Teams, it can be a huge unforeseen risk that needs to be thought about. And there's two main reasons why Teams as a collaboration tool is more susceptible to compliance risk than email. And the first is casual conversation. Just because we've shifted to remote work doesn't mean that your employees are going to stop having casual chats with their peers. So what used to be office water cooler talk is now happening in instant messages and group chats. The difference is the digital record. Next is that Teams is more than just a chat service. There's a lot under the hood of Teams as far as architecture goes that enables the platform to have so many different capabilities, from instant messages to group messages, and having the opportunity to share files, to open and edit them directly in the platform. That poses a lot of intricate challenges as far as managing it for compliance goes. So what are the key considerations that you need to be thinking about when you look at the challenge of managing Teams data? What are some of the best approaches that you can take to manage Teams data for compliance? That's where I'm going to hand it to Kevin Lemire. We'll just take a second to get the slideshow switched over.
Thanks for that, Grant. So, as Grant's already starting to introduce you here, Teams is really an interesting data source in that it's not quite as simple as more traditional sources that we've seen in the past, because it's made up of so many different things. It's not just an IM, it's a business collaboration tool. So there's files incorporated into it with things being shared, but also your chats are split up in all kinds of different ways, but from one-on-one chats or between just two individuals to group chats, to teams, to chats like we have right now that are in meetings. So these all need to be captured carefully so that we capture those differences, showing who was involved in what chat. That's all important business records, same as anything else that you've been having to manage in the past. So we have to find a way to capture all of that context, all those reactions, the emojis, the pictures or GIFs that are included within Teams can all be important. And while many of it seems trivial and perhaps more like water cooler talk, it is in fact records that are important to have if your business is summoned to do so for whatever reason, be it any kind of legal matter or even just oversight into what's going on within your company and within your employees. So, showing you a bit about our philosophy here and how we like to manage things at ZL, what we found to be most effective. We think that the more you can bring into the same unified archive and manage with the same processes, same policies, the easier your life's going to be. So we have, from the ground up, been designed to be a unified archive. It's going to be bringing in all the different pertinent data sources to one centralized location where you can then have all of your functions and modules all in the same house. So you've got your discovery solution, your records, your compliance, etc., all built in. And so Teams for us was really just a matter of adding a new connector. So in fact, that's exactly what we've done. And we've developed a connector to be able to pull in chats in a way that's not so different than how we've been archiving email in the past, while also being able to pull in SharePoint and files and the like that are actually part of Teams, but organized differently on the Microsoft side of things. So this connector takes the headache out of it and allows you to successfully crawl Teams messages periodically so that you're getting everything captured and brought into the archive. From there, we're able to do all of the necessary things to make sure it's being managed responsibly. So that's your categorization, your retention management, making it all searchable. What we do at the point of ingestion with Teams is the same as what we do at the point of ingestion with all other data sources that we like to bring in. So what we call straight-through processing is a method of as soon as data comes into ZL, we're going to be running through all of our policies and applying the relevant ones to the items. So that could be your retention to say we need to keep this for 7 years or what have you. We're going to be indexing it. So that's both the metadata and the content. We're going to fully text index all of that so that if you have any discovery case down the road, everything is going to be searchable. We're also going to do categorization at this point. So going through your compliance lexicons and going through all of those different content rules and policy rules. We're going to sort through all of this and make sure the correct action is taken for the item, whether that means that it needs to be shown to a reviewer to okay the message or not, or whether that is just going to be helpful in organizing it further down the line, which is where PII kind of comes in. So as we'll get into more later, privacy, of course, is a bit of a buzzword at the moment, with various laws being put into effect in all kinds of different countries and states right now. So being able to be ahead of the curve on your privacy management is crucially important to avoid potentially pretty disastrous fines down the line. And we're going to do that with our lexical rules here, where we can use our lexicon to find any kind of pattern for, social security numbers, employee IDs, credit cards, the like. So once we have things processed, just want to show you a bit about what we do from there. So here's our compliance manager. And this right now, we're just looking at a little dashboard of all the items that have come into our review inbox. You'll see here these pie charts give you a nice little visualization of the breakdown of all the different hits you're getting. And here I've hovered over just one of these small content rules for things that are found to be a liability. And this dashboard is really interesting in how dynamic it is, because I can filter this view for any other kind of subset of data that I want. So let's say I want to focus in on my team's data. In this breakdown, we're actually counting that under the social media title. So if I click on that, this dashboard will rebuild itself, and I can now hone in on my team's messages that have been classified. So here, again, I'm hovering over the pie chart and looking at a social security number content rule. And again, I can click right into these and look a little bit closer. Now, I know this is a very simple example, and it's frankly just a series of digits, but this regular expression pattern technology is very, very powerful in that it will allow you to find any kind of alphanumeric pattern. We have the ability to add in exclusion and inclusion phrases so that it has to match the pattern of a credit card next to the word card or anything along those lines. I can look right into my rule here from this viewer inbox. So with just a couple of clicks, I'm already focused in on a particular type of privacy potential violation, looking at the items in particular, and even looking at the rule that brought it in. So here you're seeing, again, very simple example of just the regular expression where we're just looking for a series of digits, but that can get as sophisticated as you'd like. Going on from compliance over to e-discovery, we're here just looking at a list of cases that I might have ongoing at any given moment. And if I go into one of those, I'll just see the dashboard. These are my items I've collected or put on legal hold. But let's say this was a fresh case and I was going to start off with an early case assessment from searching across our entire archive for results. So here in our advanced search screen, you can see kind of how sophisticated this can get. It can really be as complex or as simple as you'd like. For one, I have just a series of terms here: sell, sale, buy. Any one of those three being found in the content would be a hit across any of those fields. But I can also get much more sophisticated with that. And so here I have I'm using wildcards to look for anything that might be like the word construction, with a proximity operator there. So it has to be within 20 words of either the word build with a wildcard or the word road. And I can do these kinds of Boolean nesting and proximity modifiers and do this for hundreds of terms and just get very, very fancy with it. But just for this example, we'll keep it a bit more simple. Then I can also add in date ranges here. So all of these terms are getting either anded or or'd together to put together some pretty complex searches. But tying it back to what we were just talking about, because of our methodology of having being not just a e-discovery solution or not just a compliance solution, we can actually make both the different modules better for having the other in the same place. So we can actually port over our categories from compliance, so all those lexical rules, and use that as a search criteria as well. So maybe I want to find things that have classified as having PII, so any content rules that are found something that could be a privacy violation. Let's put that in a PII category, and let's use that as a search term so that we know if we're going to be sending out anything that might be potentially risky or unacceptable for us to release for whatever reason. Beyond that, we have all of our different subtypes. So while 9 times out of 10, which in any kind of search, it's a huge benefit to have all of these different data types. Of course, for certain cases, you may want to limit it to a fewer number of different data types. So here, let's say I'm just going to select my Exchange, so my emails, and my Microsoft Teams data for this search. Now, notice that Teams is broken up, so you can get more specific if you'd like to limit it to results to private chats or meetings, for example. So once I've done all of that and I've gone ahead and kicked off my search, I'm going to be presented with initially some analytics on the makeup of what I got. So here we're looking at, again, more pie charts here, so we can see the breakdown of mail and social media. Social media is going to be our teams. And we're getting some basic counts. So we can, before we're actually importing this to the case or putting anything on legal hold, we can look at this and get a better idea of if our search was what we hoped it would be, and that it is its makeup is what we're looking for. So again, this is all these pie charts are totally interactive, the date totally interactive, so I can click into any of this and view the subset of the data. So if I do that and I click on my social media, here I'm looking at some Teams messages. So important to note here is that we are capturing things like reactions that are displayed and they've been dated for you. We're getting those emojis brought in, pictures, GIFs, all that kind of stuff is going to be presented in our platform, and we've captured everything in its original format as well. So anything could be brought out of the system being completely in its native format. So while Teams is kind of complex, and to be able to capture the intricacies of, say, reactions and how that might be important in a legal matter, all of that is totally preserved. With that, I'm going to hand things back to Grant.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. It's all really interesting walking through how to capture Teams data along with other data sources. And the next step is taking all of that data and expanding upon just managing it for risk and turning it into an asset. Because employee content and emails, collaboration platforms, and files carry untapped insight into the human element of an organization. See, it's created by humans for humans, and the analysis of that data can answer some really interesting questions about your workforce. What you're seeing here is a demonstration of a communication network, and through that you can see who subject matter experts are, the top performers or influencers, and essentially it gives you insight into the informal organizational structures that drive the direction of your company. So that's just sneak peeking some interesting stuff that we're working on, and so stay tuned for that. But at this point, I'm going to hand it to Melinda to go over some of the implications for my financial institutions.
Thank you, Grant. Okay, I hope everyone is having a great day today so far. And there we go. Sorry for the delay. Okay, so when you think about everything that we've spoken about so far and the different scenarios, and you wonder, okay, so we've got it out there, but you can archive it, you can search it, you can tag it, and things like that. But do I have to do it in another process? And that answer is really no. The risk framework that you already have and how you look at messages and collaboration tools really roll up into the same pieces around how you would set up your controls and understand where that data is. So as most of everybody is familiar with a risk profile from a framework perspective, this is just an example of one, and that one that would lead you back to the same processes and procedures that you would do. You would still, if you've got an email archive and you start archiving your Teams messages, it would be there as well. So when you think about your risk assessment and you think about setting it up and the questions and things like that, some of the ones that you need to really understand and answer is, around where your data is stored. Have you mitigated the over or under retention risk? Do you have a defensible answer to your risk assessment? So in other words, do you have the artifacts that show how you made those decisions and that you made those decisions and when, and that to back up your story, so to speak? And then all of that has to feed in and work through in accordance to how your framework's set up based on your risk appetite and your thresholds and the different components from that standpoint. And then making sure that you do your testing correctly and that all your team members understand the purpose and the process and the procedures to get through it. Once you kind of go through these assessments and you get these things under your belt, then you can start asking yourself, is your data treated as an asset, and can you make that data work for you? Like the prior discussion in the other slides, it's around understanding your different components of your workforce, your private information, and your different components through that. And once you understand that and can harness it, then you can truly say that your data is an asset and that it is working for you and not just a liability. So when you think about your formats and your risk assessments and how you would need to manage this, like I said, it goes back again to ensuring that you have a repeatable, defensible process and that matches what your goal is within your risk assessment. So you get through that with your records retention, your global reporting, so that you can tell, the progress you've made where you are, and the personal data assessments, the PII and those types of things are becoming more and more important with the privacy rules that are coming out. We use CCPA, but we kind of use it anymore as a generic statement because most of the other states are now either in the process of creating their own version of CCPA or have already. So just realize that, there's lots of those out there. And when you start looking at your data assessments and things like that, we're going to need to be able to tell the difference and make sure if there are any difference that we've got those accounted for within our risk framework. And then when you start looking at why you need to do it and incorporating your collaboration platform, it really rolls back into the overarching need for data management and governance. And, it's on the regulators' radar, it's on the judges and the DOJ and everybody else's radar at this point, wanting to know how you manage your data for lots of reasons, from a risk standpoint, a security standpoint, and different pieces like that. The lines of business needs those views to roll up so that they can see it across the board within their department. First, second, and third line of defense needs to have that information so they can prepare it for the board of directors and the regulators. So when you think about what we're doing down at the bottom in the first line of defense, basically, providing the information to get rolled up, you kind of see the enormity of what's really happening as we go through these assessments and why we need to make sure that we're defensible and managed from that perspective. And then the other piece, of course, is to ensure that you've got your full capture across all of your teams. implementations and things like that. You have to be able to say that your team's data, when it's classified to a records code for retention, you need to make sure that the retention settings are based on your broader categories. So in other words, you're using the same system of record for your retention codes as all the other systems in your corporation, so that you can keep those in sync, and you have confidence that if this is identified as something to do with a loan or something along those lines, then if you've got an instant message or a Teams communication or a Teams file that was shared with that, that it would, if it was in alignment with that loan information, that it's signified for the right retention period, just like it would be in an email or any other system that you would have that data from. And then once you have those categorizations done, what that then does is enables you to perform your defensible disposal, because you validated your retirement code, or your retention codes rather. You know when end of life is and when that data needs to be retired. So then you can go through, pull your reports, review what's scheduled for end of life, and then make those decisions accordingly, as well as what may or may not be on legal hold. So those are all rolled up into this process, so that then you can then say, okay, I've gone through, I've reviewed it, I approve it, and that's the artifacts that you keep for future reference as you go through for your position. And then, you know, it all boils down to being able to mitigate your non-compliance to the regulatory mandates, and whatever those may be. Privacy, FINRA, SEC, anybody out there, you know, the international pieces as well fit in here. So you've got to be sure that you can be in compliance with those mandates and have those artifacts saved, so that you've got that defensibility in that position. And, you know, there again, when you have all of that done, you've enabled yourself to have another asset, and that's your data. So that would then give you the ability to use that data in analytics and help you be able to understand different components, as we looked at prior, from a human capital perspective, but also from a business perspective for your business intelligence, your business process, and different things like that, that are often saved in different files, talked about through the chats and the meetings and the different components like that. So that puts you at another advantage over your competition if you're able to do that and have those insights as well. All right, Grant, it looks like we've come to the end of the slides. I'll give it back to you.
Great. Thanks a lot, Melinda. That is all of the content we have for you all today, but we're super happy and thankful for you all for joining. And again, if you have any questions, please do put them in the chat. Again, those are private, and a ZL team member will get back to you with a response. You can also email info@zlti.com. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.